Hey guys, how's it going? We are live, I think. Looks like we are, anyways. 9:04 p.m. on something. Oh yeah, the 11th of July, 2019. My throat's already taking it. I'm trying not to drink as much water at night, and this ain't helping. Talking, but anyways, let me get into Run8, and if you haven't seen already, over on the forum here, I did post a message in the news and announcements. So what and I just read an email too. We were having discussions. Of course, this is Smiley's 24/7 server I'm going to be connecting to in a few minutes. And I guess hell's frozen over again for me because I never put the rail driver away. I was tempted to, but I never could put it away because I was either hoping, for the most part, that Run8 was going to have something that was going to make it easier for me to do the things that I want to do with this, or I would get the drive again or something. Somebody made me a bet on here and said, "Oh yeah, you'll be back in so much time." And at that time, I'll tell you, I was not at the frame of mind of being back because I had no energy left, to be quite honest. And considering was now the summer, at this time of year, I wouldn't be starting new projects like this. But I needed something that was for me again. And this was something, this was the only thing I could think of that was really for me. Yeah, I can go into Stormworks and I could go into some of the single player stuff, but it wasn't the same. I needed something that was going to really captivate me and encourage me to become a major part again into something. And I, this was it. So I don't know. I've had so many reboots. This is the other thing about trying to reboot, and I've been criticized before. I suppose rightly so, of being a quitter, I guess. But why do something that you don't like? I've quit jobs before. I've been with my current job for over 3 years, haven't missed a day for illness or anything like that. So I've had a job where I've held on to 6 years, but then there's been other jobs where I quit. I leave. I find something else. If you don't like what you're doing, get out of it. And there was a lot of times where I did not like what I was doing, so I got out of it. It's just that simple. Anybody that tells you, oh yeah, you gotta do it because I don't know anything. I don't make a cent off this. This is my hobby, so I can do what I want. And for those that follow me and those who have stuck by me, still around. I mean, I was surprised to see Smiley because actually it was Smiley. Not to say that Scott wasn't able to do, but Scott it was with me. We were both so burnt out of this, and neither one of us was going to put up a 24/7 server. I was prepared to put up a little bit of a server, but I didn't really think about it, but a 24/7 server is much more appealing. And I wanted to do it a little different this time. So, first off, let's get on to Run8, and we'll connect over to Smiley's server now. He was just talking about passwords. That choice is up to him, but personally, I'm thinking it's not necessary, even though it's 24/7. I don't think it's necessary, at least at this point. If things got bad or became abusive, then yeah. But for now, I'll show you what's happening. There's still a lot to iron out, and there's going to be. I mean, there's going to. Basically, because Smiley's going to have to make the things happen to get it working the way we want it, and then see from there. But what I'll do is I will create a document over on. Actually, I'll probably do it tonight and I'll save my voice for a little bit. But let's get in here. So that's Scott's old IP. I don't know. These IPs change all the time, so I don't know if Smiley's does all the time or not. I know Scott's does and mine does, but if the IPs change, then it's not a big deal. Server should be available 24/7. And now I don't really... No, I don't have any... Yeah, I have enough, but... So... Whoops, I'm into... Which one am I into here? Or was I into the right one? Okay. I always get lost on this when I first look. Okay, that's right. We start down at the bottom here. Wow, there's a lot of Amtrak's running. So, basically, and I'm going to see how things go or whatever. We are looking at running the this section from Buffalo all the way up to Oneida Siding. Now, I may have to run left-hand running through Oneida, which may cause issues with the rest of the lines. I'm not sure. The further up you go, it gets very difficult to keep things just fleeted, because once you get up to, say, Hoffman's, you got trains going all over the place at that point. But down here, it's pretty simple. So, this actually is a good this is Scott's modified, the latest modified screen that he had going on now. I believe there's a spawn point going left-hand running. I was originally said right-hand running, but then I realized, well, maybe left-hand running is easier, because at least for the fact that the siding for spawning, so any westbound that spawns would spawn here, and then we can route them right out of the siding if we want to, or we could keep it right-hand running and then just bring them in for manual, provided that there's enough trains that are continuously moving westbound. I'm just thinking of shooting out to local. Okay. Do. So, I'm not too sure. We're still talking about the remainder. Smiley definitely wants it 24/7, which I totally agree with. I think it should be 24/7. And cool. So I'm going to take a look at the various locations. Now, for those of you that keep on, you're into YouTube. First of all, I said I was going to look at the chats tonight. Now, I'll look at it occasionally, but first of all, I know there's a lot of people say, hey, run a train from LA to whatever, or run this. It's like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to just run trains for the sake of running trains. That's basically, I'm not there to do that. So let me take a look. Now we got some trains. What I don't want to do is dispatch. So when trains get stopped or all that other stuff, that's this is why I prefer to keep things as simple as possible. So, coming out of Buffalo, and we'll do the tour here. Rail tags. Destination, sure. We'll put the milepost tags on. I don't think they work here. I'm not sure. Oh, location tags. Industry tags. Are they milepost tags? Oh yeah, okay, that's the ones. So yeah, they're on. Alright. So when you're starting off here towards Buffalo, you're at the auto block of 290, what is it, 298? I've got all kinds of Amtrak stopped. Something's holding up. I'm not gonna worry about that because I'm not stopping. Wow, I didn't think I got those messages for some reason. I guess so. So there's a CN 5390. So yeah, we run along here. You know, you get a great crossing coming in. This is an eastbound direction, obviously. And then you're getting into the area here where that doesn't look right. Really? I am down at the right spot, am I not? Okay. 296. Did I miss something? Or did I go too far? Oh yeah, no, it's up here. Oh, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking it comes down here. I'm thinking of this and not that. So yeah, whatever. So 296 starts off. Let me see what he's got currently. So Oneida siding. This is the one that we would have to not necessarily put every train. It depends on how he wants to set things up. If he wants to run them all the way, that's fine. The only problem is it gets a little tricky considering they come from all kinds of directions. I recommended Oneida at the very least for the spawn trains coming from the west, because I don't want to run beyond 30 miles. I don't need to. So random AI traffic's not enabled, and that's the other thing too, is I want to have random AI traffic going in there. So yeah, so Amtrak North's got a passenger train. CP293, that's the one I believe that I wanted to look at. And right now, the only one is a mixed freight on the left. So that's okay though. It's okay if so. Let me just spawn this in and just see. So he's got 291, so that's main 1. There it is. Okay, so it throws it up there, which is fine. So if we did left-hand running, then of course all the trains would start up way up this way here. So if we did left-hand running, this is where things would start to come into play. At least for that direction, which is fine. And I think the other one is this one here, which I'll just spawn any train. Doesn't matter which one it is. Yeah. So both ways it will spawn a train in that direction. So basically, what can happen if it's set up to do the right hand direction, then they can fleet and they can just keep going. And then depending upon how the rest of the server wants to run, it could run all the way. It gets confusing once you get up here. This isn't so bad. It's once you get to this control spot right here. Because then you have all these trains that are looking to get out of the way, basically. So once you get to here, this is where things start changing. Actually, it starts as early as here. So once you get onto the Selkirk map, basically. So if you're just running Mohawk, which is something I think I tried doing once before, you could, in theory, have another spawn point at Fonda. And that would give you a little bit more. But if you wanted even more than that, then, you know, that's, I guess it depends on what everybody wants. And again, this isn't my server, so what I did was I just spawned that train there, just to get it out of there. As I said before, so there's an Amtrak right here that's headed westbound, I think. Oh, he went past the thing, so he's just going to take off. We'll assume he didn't stop. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is if there's passenger trains, the passenger trains can't have they can have AI, but the passengers almost have to be spawned manually. So, because what happens is, let's say for example, if you're gonna keep everything on AI that constantly runs, what you want to do is you don't want supply trains. You want to have trains that just basically run and whenever. So they just go as far as they can, and that's it. The problem is if you have a lot of trains at a lot of spawn points, and I'm not too sure how that works again, but let me just take a look here. So, for example, there's a setting in here, and this is on the server. For example, say we were doing left hand, or actually, in fact, I'm not certain, but I got a funny feeling this could very well be a supply train coming onto main 1. So in order to get a supply train, as opposed to this, which just keeps on spawning, you put something on a different track, and it becomes a supply train. So in other words, this probability stays 0, and then you go in and you spawn the supply trains. But I'm just trying to think too. There's the other thing too is where the supply trains come from. So, because that one only allows me to spawn a random train now. What about, because anybody would need to have access to be able to spawn. This is okay coming from Buffalo. Let's just say, for example, only one train comes from Buffalo. One supply train comes from Buffalo. Then that would be it. But if there was more than one train that came from Buffalo, you would want to have... this wouldn't necessarily work. Unless it was... I don't know. So you basically have one train in there. I don't know if there is or not, because I can't see it. So I'm thinking out loud here. Here you can see all the various different types of trains. And again, if you have passengers coming, they're not going to stop at the station if they're auto set up, because holy crap. Talking over each other. Here comes the Amtrak. Now, having the Amtrak's miss the station at Syracuse is not the end of the world, because that's the other thing that happens. I don't think there's a platform for left-hand running, but I'm not sure. Whereas here, they'll hit the stations, but then again, like I said, when you get over into this section and you're spawning trains, you can spawn to a certain extent, but then, especially like right here, it gets really interesting. And then you get a single track section. What I'm trying to say is this: if you're going to have, there's two ways of going about having AI running. You can have the train stop and make sure that they are stopped. What'll end up happening though, is if say for example, you can probably, since I can access this, anybody can access this. You can turn the random AI off when you don't want any more trains or whatever. Personally, I see guys, somebody, or like you said, random AI trains were on. There's a whole whack of trains right now that's sitting up queuing for Albany, for example. So then that just makes it's very difficult to have an AI system when nobody's here. But at the same time, you don't, like, say for example, if I'm running this and I'm on the server, I will want AI trains. I'll want to have my AI trains come out of here, and I'll want to have at least AI coming out of Oneida. What I don't want to do is dispatch the whole route. That's the furthest I want to get away from that. I don't want to be doing that. If I'm running, I only want to deal with, and this is what I was getting to. So I just ran that train out. I don't care where it goes afterwards. But ideally, you have Oneida. So this is the end point here. Wait a minute. Okay. So, as I was saying before, okay, and this is what'll happen. So you want to have, anybody can, and I don't recommend a password necessarily. I don't think it's, because if you want people to participate, the problem with passwords is then you gotta deal with membership and all that other stuff. I mean, that's fine if that's important, but what's important, at least for me, if it's just this area that I'm concerned about, and I'm looking to run this as much as possible on a regular basis, and the three of us focus on this particular area, if we decide that's what we want to do. Because if we don't, that's okay too. because that's just my idea. My idea is to focus up to Oneida. The only reason why I say, damn, all these freaking messages are annoying. Because I don't know when you guys are chatting and when this thing is telling me trains are. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that's not. See, but that's the thing. Is people are going to leave it on, and I don't want to dispatch east of Oneida. I just don't. I want to have AI, but I don't want to be dispatching east of Oneida. So what's 5390? Is it that train in here? There was a train down here I saw. I thought that didn't have a spot, or was it just moved over or something? Or am I looking at the wrong one? Oh, that's a signal. Duh. I was looking at this and I thought there was a train there. I was like, it's like, oh, that doesn't work. Okay. So what I did was I moved him out. Now, where was the place that he could get off the track? It wasn't Oneida. I should have got. Actually, let me get the the Run8 depot map out. I know I have this somewhere, but I'll just go to Run8 depot. Always nice to visit there. Haven't been there from here for a while. I don't want to accept cookies. No, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. Route maps. Thank you. So we want the Mohawk sub. Okay. It's easier to explain it through here, anyways. So this is what we're looking at here. No, we're not looking that far. What are we looking at? Okay, we're looking at Oneida. So once you get past, the reason why I chose Oneida was because once you get up to this point, you're now dealing with another switching district because everything comes out of here in theory. Not necessarily in theory. You could. I don't know who switches. Who's the one that actually would run that? I'm just trying to think. There's a runaround, which makes me think it comes from. It actually comes from somewhere else. I forget where these guys come. But anyways, I didn't want to go this far. I thought, no, let's start simple first. So if you're setting up all your trains to spawn here, and then you put in a bunch of symbols, and you know, let's say for the majority CSX trains, you're looking at putting, say, manifests. Yeah, I would say like manifest trains. Well, see, this is the problem, and this is where it gets interesting. Oneida is a westbound siding, but we want to have supplies. So if we want to have a supply train coming into the mix, you almost have to have it come from somewhere. If you guys get what I mean. And the reason why you want that is because you want anybody, whether not necessarily relying on Smiley, but myself or Scott or whoever, to be able to spawn a supply train and have the tags in it. Now this is before RTS 2 ever comes into being, if it ever does. back in the day, we used to be able to save files and just transfer them to each other, and then put them on a server or whatever, and then we were able to spawn them. But let's just say, for example, the AI was to I know of. Let me look at the spawn points for a minute and see what we got. So, okay. So these are the sidings. We got Selkirk, River, Port Sub, Oneida, Little Falls siding. Okay, that's the Castleton subs. That's east of thing. Now this is where I would, like as I was saying before, coming out of Buffalo is the easy part, because there's a mixed freight there. You can have one train set up for that particular as a supply train, and I think that's how I had it set up too. I always had it come in on the left track, even if it's against the flow. It allows anybody to come in and trigger a supply train. But I would like to see a supply train come from the west too, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could go a little bit farther. Sorry, I thought the chat was going again. So something like this could easily be the one and only supply train, whereas the rest wouldn't. The problem is, like I said, once you get east of that junction, now all of a sudden, well, there's two problems. Once you get east of the junction, you're now dispatching, or you're dispatching. Number one, and number two, if you're not dispatching, you're having trains that follow each other, higher priority trains like a passenger or whatever, basically start coming in and into play, and they wind up catching up to the slower freights. It's not so bad on this route, but it does happen. So looking at the and then you get all kinds of goofiness, because if you're trying to deal with anything that's even similar to a prototypical symbol, you're now having to decide which junction to take and all the other stuff. So which one's this one? Oh, that's a train coming in. There's Smiley. It's got a train coming in right now. So I haven't really taken a look at this yard yet. But let me see what after Oneida. I'm just curious how far it goes down. So Oneida's here. That's, I think the next spawn point probably comes outside of this area. Probably Little Falls, maybe. Okay, that's not too bad. Little Falls is at CP mile 2.18. Which is good. You could do the entire well, I don't want to be getting necessarily into the entire Mohawk sub. But let's say, for example, we wanted to simulate. This is the tough part to do when you're not the actual host. Which is also why this is where something like RTS or something remote would be coming into play. The reason why I'm looking at these sidings is because, again, this is an easy one. You have this is your Buffalo supply train. It's the one train. This here would be reserved for your AI stuff. You can still have passenger, because once it takes off east, it really doesn't matter where it goes as long as it's not stopped. Ultimately, you want a place where the trains basically either ditch themselves or get to the end of the line. The problem again, once you get down here, you've got double track here. To some extent, you're okay. Routing through Selkirk could be interesting because it won't be prototypical. You're gonna have. I mean, really, there's nowhere to put a train if you're running AI all the time. Like, in other words, here's my focus. I want to focus on this. So I want to focus up on to Oneida. I don't want to focus on all this other stuff that's going on, but I do want to run AI. So if I want to run AI in this area up to Oneida, I can't be focused on whatever else is going on, and I also don't want massive trains just going bloop 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 bloop, you know, because then it becomes just a pain in the ass. It really does. This is why I'm looking at different ways as far as I could see. I think Fonda's the next one. See, this is such a pain. St. Johnsville and Fonda are the next ones. And they're right-hand running too, which makes it a little bit more interesting. Oneida isn't. So St. Johnsville, Fonda, and Little Falls. They're a little bit further than I would like, because now you're dealing with the entire sub. What are we dealing with? 196, 100 miles. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. So let's see what we got here. So we do have a St. Johnsville siding westbound. We have a Little Falls siding westbound. Oneida would then not play into it unless you wanted to have a shorter supply train. The reason why I said as far as choosing, let's say we want to simulate 2 supply trains. You want to have them kind of in close proximity. So what's this one? Oh, okay. So let's say you have 2 supply trains that come from the east that serve Syracuse, and 1 supply train coming from the west. So, as I said before, the supply train that comes from Buffalo is an easy one. You just run it off main 1. The supply trains that come from the east could be Little Falls, St. Johnsville. Fonda can be where all your AIs come out of. Then you take all the AIs out of here. So now you're just dealing. We're dealing with one route now. Of course, how do you get the trains? If you still want this as part of it, then how do you get it? But that at least would get you a supply train that comes from here at 218. 207's not that far away. So realistically, you can either have a run that starts from here or starts from here. You don't even have to model this portion yet, or as far as the locals. You can keep that for future expansion, let's say. So this section here with all those extra industries, if things really start picking up, and I think I don't know if the IT's got one as well, but if things start picking up, ditto with this. You want to start say this as your base. So Oneida, forget Oneida, because Oneida's on the wrong side for right-hand running. Fonda becomes your AI spawn point for everything westbound. And this is where everything starts coming, because once you, like I said, once you get into here, your trains are going to get lost, and people are going to have to dispatch this area. They're going to be forced to dispatch this area or turn AI off. That's the only choice. St. Johnsville has one spawn point for one manual manifest train. Little Falls has a spawn point for one manual manifest train. Call it whatever you want. You can even have the tags for the outbound trains to head there as well. So in other words, you can have a train destined for St. Johnsville also. Although it sounds weird, you have a train destined for, one of those areas. These sidings are more like overtakes for a lot of other stuff. So the whole idea is, let's say, I'm just trying to think of the area here. Like when we're looking from various locations and trains, which I haven't really researched this area too much in a long time. Of course, you're missing out on the hump. You're missing out on a lot of other operations here, which are cool, but at the same time they require a lot of dispatching. Dispatching is cool. You guys know me. I love dispatching. The problem is you can't do dispatching and you can't run at the same time. You can, but when you're dealing with, you got to choose. You don't have to. You can run the whole damn thing if you wanna. The problem is you never get caught up, and that's the issue that a lot of the big servers are running into now. Is they can't get caught up. They don't have enough people, and these territories keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we start off here, which is a logical place to start. Buffalo's fine. It's got the spawn point here. You can spawn a supply train. In fact, you can, in theory, you could have all your supply trains come from Buffalo. Albeit, I would love to be able to either have the opportunity to run whatever spawn or whatever supply train hasn't run in a, if there was. Maybe 3 supply trains is too much. I don't know. So if that's the case, maybe if that's the case, then you can go so far as to say, okay, well, maybe we'll spawn all the AI trains from Little Falls. Then they come out there and they're fine. They run out of Little Falls, they head westbound, and Oneida becomes the manual spawn point. So only westbound supply. So you have your westbound supply there, your eastbound supply. The whole idea for the yard was, I see Syracuse, and we'll get doing the tour here for a minute, and I'll explain a little bit more. Now I'm talking way too much, so which means I'm gonna have to drink more, and I've been having enough health issues lately. But what the hell? Okay, I'm lost. Oh, I'm all the way down here in yeah. All right, let me go back. Was I over here? I think I was. Yeah, by the racetrack. Okay, the fairgrounds. Okay. So yeah, you're coming into town. You got your little spawns. I think they're coming up pretty close to Syracuse. I guess it was. Is it 294 or whatever the hell it is? Yeah. Yes, maybe. No, I don't know. Must be. I think they were coming up right here. 293. So from here, I thought I had industries on, but maybe I don't. But the industries might not be There's the destination. Okay, this one might not have an industry for it, or it could be... Yeah, there's no industries on that one, I don't think, but there's some on that one, which is fine. What is that, anyways? Oh, I see. STU. So the Bell Island Pocket Yard, Stubble Bean Chemicals, SEV, I think I saw. That's BCC. Blue Circle Cement. What the hell? Am I looking at the wrong side here? Or did I go too far? Okay, there's the Fairgrounds sub. How come in this it says they got it as SEV, but it's actually BCC? That's weird. So is this a Run8 depot thing? Where they just decide, okay, well this is going to be the name of the thing and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's interesting that you get... I'm looking at my map here. And they got a different industry. I'm just wondering what they're doing, but whatever. That's strange. So anyways, let me go up to 293 anyways, because that was some of the other interesting things that I wanted to check out. So yeah, the Fairgrounds sub, I don't think there's anything else down there. Yeah, it just serves that as far as I know. But in the yards here, so you got the paperboard. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these maps. They're just screwing around with everything. General Chemical. Have they just butchered this map, or? Wow. I never noticed that before. Or at least I don't remember that before, but... So, Rock 10 corrugated packaging, they got this RTC, but then they got their own names for everything. So, you got General Chemical, which I guess is that. Solvay Paperboard. What the hell? Okay, Scott, help me out here if you're listening in on this. What in the world? Am I in the right place? I am in Buffalo, right? Or coming outside of Buffalo. I am looking at the same one. Yeah, it's these ones. So they got Rock 10 corrugated packaging. So they name these their own little names instead of using what was done by the author, because I guess they figured they were better. I don't know, or they had some other plan and that's the way they wanted to do it. Allied Chemical Yard. Hmm. I don't know what they did there. So, okay, so that's not the NYSW, that's Allied Chemical? I think Scott's gone. Yeah, Scott fell asleep or something. So, okay. Well, perhaps it's just like my loss of memory or I don't remember, but wow. That's crazy. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Scott's had his own ideas with industries, but he has the most knowledge of all that. What I was thinking about doing with the St. Lawrence sub. Oh, there we go. So I guess we won't worry about the maps too much. I mean, well, at least Syracuse packaging's there. Cooper. Okay. See, they don't have not all the industries are in there either. So there's a lot. There's a lot. Well, I mean, they're good maps. It's just it's deceiving. So, anyways, what I was saying about the St. Lawrence sub. What you can do is you can turn this into an industry. I think that's what I did with mine before. So before the signal, you start at well, not necessarily before the signal, but enough to get some engines in there, I guess. somewhere around, say about here, or you can use the whole thing. It doesn't really matter, I suppose, because name change to the buyouts. Yeah, it's just I'm looking for consistency to know what it is that I'm looking at, and if necessary, I just I just go ahead and make my own damn maps, or at least the schematics. I've done it before. And I mean, I was making schematics since day one. I didn't have all the links and all that other stuff, but I mean, the maps are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking the maps. It was just I'm looking at the tags that are literally physically there and thinking to myself, okay, well, they went with something else, but and some of the names they use, I can tell you right now. I mean, you look at the names. This is all made. A lot of this was made up crap. Like Stupplebean, that's the guy who wrote who did the route. I don't know about all the other names, perhaps, but I've seen names that just are made up crap. But which is fine. I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me as long as it basically is consistent. Okay, so enough griping about the inconsistencies. That was just kind of weird. So what happens with this is, so for the St. Lawrence sub at least, I mean I like the idea of the interchange though. Let me just go back to that for a second, because I did have at least, hopefully there was at least one interchange that's still there. I think there is one. Yeah, this one right here. So you got all this. No. Sorry, wrong one. This yard here. Even though you have General Chemical, you could turn. I guess that's technically part of that, I suppose. But you can turn this into industries as well. What you do is you take, say, one track for loads, another track for empties, and then, because this goes much further actually in the actuality. Yeah, I've seen LA's, oh for sure. So you use one track for one and one track for the other, and then you're all set. And then that'll work fine. I gotta get actually I'm gonna get a cola. It'll mean I'll be getting up all night, but that's okay. It's Friday tomorrow. I've had a sore throat as it is lately. But with canker sore, I got canker sores on my. Well, I got a canker sore on my lip. I got a canker sore in the back of my throat, which is why it's been sore. And anytime I do a live stream, especially when I'm doing a lot of talking, it's just I gotta drink something. It's just been. I can't just keep talking. But anyways, so yeah, that gives at least, you can even use two tracks of load, two tracks for loads, two tracks for empties of different types or whatever. They can be the same types. One can be overload, basically like a double up for the loads, a double up for the empties, and then your runaround track. And then after 24 hours, it acts like a live interchange, and then you have cars back for Syracuse again. So that works out pretty good. You can do that. But again, like I said, I can work locally with my system and play around with the industry files, and then give you guys an industry file if you want, or you guys can be creative and try it yourself. I'm all for, like, if you guys have ideas or if you want to use a certain set industries too. I mean, whatever, it doesn't matter. My whole thing, I'm very particular about what is it that I'm, you know, the experience has to be, for me, as I said before, I don't want to be dispatching the entire road, but I do want to be able to put AI on. So if I'm running, I don't want to feel as though I'm alone. And this is why double track, and this is what kind of triggered me today to think, well, wait a minute. If I just have a double track main line on and trains are passing by and they don't bunch up too much, then it's not so bad. So this is why I was suggesting one of the further sightings, not too far, but the furthest one you can get is Fonda. That gives you as much as you can. You can spawn every single westbound train, including stuff that you would get coming out of. You can spawn trains that you create. You know, if you're going to create train, if you're gonna keep everything available, or do things, or keep it open for others to try, because in reality, like, say for example, a few of us can, you know, kind of, how would you say, maybe this goes along the lines of what Scott was thinking with some of his adopted industry thing, but maybe along the same premises. We could operate this area as a switching district. You can all of a sudden have a bunch of other people come about and say, hey, you know, we would love to run some of these industries on a regular basis because we find them more interesting. And then they would have their own, they can manage their own switching district if this thing got really big. I don't expect it to get really big though. That's just my pessimism of the way things are. And that's okay, because it doesn't need to be. You can have you know, as much or as little, it really doesn't matter. Oneida can be the one and only supply from the west. The reason why I was saying two supplies from the west, the only reason why I was thinking of that is it would give the potential to have a train that originates from Syracuse to another CSX destination further east, and having a supply from two different locations would allow not just a west-east movement out of Syracuse Industries, but it would actually allow a west movement. Of course, you'd have your interchanges going that way as well, and to, you know, whatever else is going to some of these. But you'd have that, but you also have your potential for at least more than one eastbound movements. And you don't have to run it to that side. By all means, you can run it as far as you feel like and then just let it go. At some point, though, you'll want the train to be able to terminate itself while AI is running. Now, I suggest having AI on all the time and let the signals go. That's how I would do it. I would just let it go all the time, because that way people aren't into the menus. You try to get people in here and say, okay, well, if you want AI, click that. It's fine, but once they get into this little menu here, then they start going blip, 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 you know, clicking everything, and then it becomes a real mess. I don't know if that can be disabled as well. I think this can. Maybe not. I forget. But I wish the client had more access to some of the things so that he can pick and choose particular trains. The only reason why I say that is because, once again, we're dealing with tags. The only other way around that, of course, is going into your load save, the problem with that is you have to have an RTS type save file, which of course that doesn't exist in this version, but it's something. So yeah, that's just something, and I'm gonna do a write-up. I might do that very shortly, but first let's keep going here. I haven't taken a look around because I haven't really taken too much of a look. So Allied Chemical. So this is called the Allied Chemical Yard, which is interesting. And you can have, you know, I mean ACY. That's fine, but there's not even an industry there. But I could see that being different. Or what is it? An interchange or something? Or it's supposed to be part of NYS and W. You can change it to NYSW. I'm okay with that. At least that one. At least I know what the hell it is. But or you can even have NYSW. You know, I don't know. I'm just trying to think if something in the industry itself that says NYSW Allied Chemical Yard, if that makes sense. But again, I would still change it anyways if you were to do it as an interchange, because then you can have particular tracks. You can have the 2 of these tracks for loads, 2 of these for empties, and then you got room to have a pretty good live working interchange, just like this Finger Lakes yard, which is fine to use that too. So you have an interchange with the Finger Lakes, an interchange with the NYSW. No, I'm not giving an entire tour of the route. If you want to see a tour of the route, then go get it. That's all I got to say. Oh, do I have to go in here? So no, not going to do a tour of the entire route. So, you know, that's something. If you haven't seen it, I mean, it's a nice route. It's a very beautiful route. No, I certainly would give a tour, but not today. And besides, like I said, the whole title of this video was about starting a small area. I'm not worried about the rest. So, what was I doing? That's why I hate these those chats in there. The live streams have them. I could disable them, but I don't want to be rude. Okay. So yeah, Syracuse Amtrak. This is the other thing too. When you run Amtraks on AIs, it's going to miss Syracuse every time, because this particular station, which is not the end of the world. I could care less if an Amtrak passes by here. Doesn't matter to me. I don't think they'll stop. They'll only stop in this track, if I recall. I remember having passenger trains miss this all the time by accident. Okay, so now we're getting past. So we get past that. That's my ideas for changes that I would make to Allied Chemical. The other thing too. This is. I forget how oh geez. I think you can filter, and it's been a while, and maybe Scott, you can tell me about this. I think you can filter what a supply train, what industries it will supply. I think you can do that now. That was something original. Yeah, of course you can. Because we would have trains that come out, and yeah, so I'm sure we've been able to do that for quite some time. There was a time where you couldn't do that, and it was a real PITA. But anyways, So yeah, that works pretty good. So you got your interchange there. That works good. You get around here, the Amtrak somewhere around here. Where the hell is it? Did I go past it yet? Oh no, St. Lawrence sub. Okay, here it is. So yeah, there's the Amtrak station. You only got one platform by the looks of it, so yeah, you're kind of stuck there. First Ward lead. I think we already looked at those. Complete packaging solutions. Syracuse pack. Yeah, we looked at all that. Okay. Cool. And the recycle, which is probably named something different, I betcha. I just got a funny feeling. No, it still says recycle. They just don't use it, but we can use it. I like it. Sounds good to me. Great place to send recycle stuff. Perfect. Okay, so we're into the 4-track section. Syracuse Glass, China Works, and Frollo. Yeah, see, okay, so they trade. Okay, so they called it Frollo there. Well, that's at least they call it Frollo for the one. Oh, I see. So they don't put Frollo, but they like the one. So I like both of them. Keep both of them. I say the more industries, the better. At least for our local area. Why not? Bush Products, Midler Park, whatever that is. Werther Bear Supply. So it's a wood that they have as beer supply / woodworking, whatever the hell. Doesn't matter to me. Sounds good to me. We'll figure it out. Whoops. Carrier. Okay, so now we're getting into stuff that's not in there again. Little Falls Lumber. Reserve Supply doesn't have one. Not a big deal. I don't mind having these old ones that don't have them, but to have them would be cool, I guess. I suppose when you don't have anything like I understand if you don't have a if you don't have anything, then I can understand why perhaps it wouldn't have an industry, but I think maybe that's what they're going for, or they're old industries. So anyway, Syracuse Yard we're getting up to here. So here we go. Pernell Jackson, whatever the hell that is. Doesn't look like it's I don't think that, yeah, it must be that 4th track there where it goes onto that thing. Yeah, it was one or the other, but so the Pete Street Runner, nice little area here with so I like that's got Savage Flexo. Where the hell's that? See, they call it transflow. Which, you know, like I said, I don't mind the names. So, whatever they want to call it. I put my hand up, may have had an ale in hand. Ah! Okay. Now I gotcha. Okay, so now we're dealing with the yard. And of course we have intermodal facilities. I don't know if we have industry tracks. It doesn't look like they are. But those would be nice. I mean, that's low priority for me. I'm not too worried about intermodal. But it's at least, you know, there's something that can be done. I'd be okay just for a supply train and then just, boom, have it. So that's about it with the yard, I think. Was there a dwarf? I think it's a dwarf signal that comes out of here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Okay. So that's cool. So yeah, once you get to the yard, then pretty much that's all I'm interested in for Syracuse, and I think that's all Syracuse really deals with. Is that the end of Syracuse's switching district, Scott, that you're aware of? I think these guys run... I'm just trying to think prototypically, do they run out of Selkirk, or are they part of the switching district? And if they are, it don't matter to me, but I'm not in any hurry to expand beyond our horizons or beyond our capacity. So you got DeWitt, that's, I mean, the Kanestoska, whatever, team track. I don't know if the district goes beyond that. Yeah, that would annoy me if there was a bunch of stop signals too all the time. If I was running, I would be like, especially just that beep beep beep. It used to annoy me just as I was trying to run and then trying to dispatch at the same time, and I'd always be, you know, between. And what ruined it for me for the Sanford sub was trying to dispatch and run. Especially down south because of all the constant need to deal with the grade crossings. So let me see here. Oh, I want to go for the map one more time. So yeah, I don't know if that switching district technically ends there, but as far as I'm concerned, it is kind of a team track. I don't think there's anything there. That's at 270. Let me just take a quick look. See what there. See what's there, but I don't think there's anything. What are we doing here? 280. So we got a little ways to go. And I do like this openness too, to be able to run a main for 30 miles. Or run it as far as I want to, and then, you know, just decide to let it go. You can stop it, AI it, whatever. But I also like bringing in a train, even if it's, no matter where it's coming from, to actually physically bring it in, as opposed to, I mean, yes, I know you can have AIs do it. It's not a question that the AIs can't. And if necessary, the AIs can do it. So if you're running the yard and nobody's run a train that you really need, then by all means, you know, having the ability to AI is important. So there is an industry. Question is, so in theory, I guess the Canasta Team Track would also be available. But I don't know where the switching district would end, and I'm fine with including that little one too. Gives a switcher to go that way for something to do, I suppose. I don't think Oneida has anything on that one track. I think that's just a little stubby thingy. Where is it? Here we go. So this would be Oneida. It's probably just, I don't know, a set-off track or something, by the looks of it. Okay. Of course, like I said, this I wouldn't be in a hurry to do any of that or include any of that until you need a lot more manpower. You definitely need more manpower to do. Here's the thing about Selkirk, and I like Selkirk. The problem with Selkirk is I love humps. Anytime you're dealing with a hump, you're basically dealing with an operation that is literally 24/7. In some capacity, somebody's going to be doing something there, whether it's trimming, building trains, hustling power. Somebody's going to be doing something there, and it's usually going to be more than one person. The whole brainchild behind what I'm looking at here is having a small region. See, that annoys the hell out of me with that stopping signal thing. This is why I don't want to have trains coming from all over the damn place. It would just annoy me. I would be like, okay, forget it. I get very annoyed easily, as you can tell. Any other chats? No. Very nice. Okay, let me finish my stops or whatever. See, this is what I mean. I don't want to dispatch anything else, but I do want to run AI. So if I want to run AI, that's why. And like I said, if it doesn't, like, if it's something that we can't agree on, I may try to do this on my own too. It's something that I got no problem doing. But the fact that once I saw that you had your 24/7 server up, at first I thought, oh God, it's Selkirk. and I right away, I'm like, yeah, Selkirk Mohawk, double track mainline, kind of boring because there's not really single track. The last little thing I did was Mojave sub, and still to this day though, Mojave still requires you to do some dispatching, and it takes away from the part of being the crew, because you want to have the trains running as if they're part of what's going on, but at the same time you got to dispatch. So now you're basically, because there's no AI dispatcher, So you're running Mojave sub, and then you're either running in the yard. It's not so bad when you're running a train up a hill, but a lot of those places you're trying to switch industries, and sure, you could stop for a second and start lining up switches and all that other crap. And I love dispatching. So for me, it's just like, yeah. But I want to be able to, and I'm going to I'm going to call a white paper of sorts, and I'm going to do a document up, and I might do it tonight. We'll see. I got like 30 minutes now. So my recommendation is, and I hadn't heard Scott talk about the switching districts, so I don't know if he's half asleep or whatever. Maybe he didn't hear me. Nah, never mind. That's not that important. It's not that important. So, what do I want to do here? I got 30 minutes left, and I want to control my voice a little bit and save my throat. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, where to run the trains off. So you have an eastbound train, and you don't want to get all those little stop things. So for me, and like I said, I'm not too sure if we're all on the same page here. Because if we're not, then, like I said, I might have to do it on my own. So I'm going to write up a white paper on my forum with the ideas in a minute. But let's say, for example, an eastbound train comes out of here. And like I said, it's not my server, so I just like the idea that there is a 24/7 server, and then there's a possibility. If you're running an eastbound train and you want to have it delete, my recommendation was it Utica? I can't remember if it was Utica or not. Originally, my recommendation was Utica. Have it go into this track right here. The only problem with that is you'd have to get it to so anything that goes eastbound, you fleet it to go into here, and eventually they're just going to delete. Now, the longer you make a fleet, chances are you're going to get trains that say they can't move because of something ahead of it and what have you, but it's not a big deal. So I think it was Utica, but we were talking about Little Falls as a possibility, and then we were talking about, so that's to the Selkirk map right there. Where's the farthest on the right? And I can look at the Selkirk map, or I can say, no, let's go St. Johnsville. Problem with St. Johnsville is I have to cross up that way to get to that plastic. Plus, it's an industry. I don't like doing them on industries. Little Falls has another one. That's a good one to go. So it looks to me this is ideally the place I would want to ditch a train. And I could ditch an eastbound train. So what you do is you permanently line up CP 225 so that everything that comes through here goes down this track to Hexamer. And that's it. Or Herkimer. Sorry, not Hexamer, Herkimer. These industries aren't represented. They're not, nothing's done with them. They're there. Of course, like I said, that might interfere. This doesn't interfere with anything else, but it allows something to be able to end there at least. The spawn point I would use then, if you're going to cross it there, you can't use Little Falls any longer, nor can you use Fonda. You can use, sorry, I'm sorry, you can use, can you use Little Falls? Not really. There's another way to do it. Okay, you can use Little Falls. I stand corrected. So you haven't used Little Falls. So eastbounds would line up right here to this industry. All eastbounds at Little Falls would terminate if they're AI'd. So the whole idea is to keep AI on all the time, 24/7. Then you set up the left track as the spawn point for all trains. So all AI trains westbound, just like where you'd have the south track coming from Buffalo would be the south track, you would have all AI trains spawn at Little Falls. Or, well, St. Johnsville's fine too. No, never mind that. Or Fonda. Okay, there you go. That'd be it right there. Fonda siding. What is the length of it? I can't even see. Okay, well you're 17,000. So that's more than plenty. Okay. So we're using the whole map. So we're using all of Mohawk pretty much. So AIs westbound spawn out of have them all set up to spawn out of Fonda. This switch would be switched all the time. This would be fleeted on. Anything that would come out of the sidings would constantly get it fleeted greens all the way. Like I said, there's a risk the further you go that they're going to bunch up, but it's not too bad at least. You're only dealing with 188 to, yeah, let's say. Well, you're dealing with a potential for a bunch up, but it's 110 miles, and as long as the trains are somewhat spaced out, they should be okay. It's not like the mountains of, the Tehachapi and all that stuff, so I'm not going to do the white paper tonight. In fact, I probably won't do it until Sunday. That's the next time I'm going to have availability, unfortunately. I might have some... No, I don't have any time. I get my kiddo on Friday, so that's it. I might start one up and then let you guys go to town on it and see what you want to do, and then hopefully you're understanding what I'm saying, what I'm talking about, Smiley, because I want to make sure you and I are on the same page, because if it doesn't work for you, then it's got to be something. It's your server. I'm just a user, but I'm trying to get back into it to try to promote your server too at the same time and try to get more people involved, and then hopefully I can get involved. And like I said, there's no guarantees. I can't say that I'd stick with it. I may lose interest after a couple months. It's happened before, but at least I can try. And I'm sure Scott's the same way. Scott's asleep right now, I think. Or he's drifting off, or either he's not on the live stream. You might even, I don't know if he's, yeah, he could be watching or listening to the live stream. I don't know if he is or not. I haven't heard him chat in a while. So that's what I mean. You have them spawn over at westbounds. Have all your trains set up to spawn at Fonda. You already have probably all the trains set up to spawn eastbound. All the other spawn points, I would disable. I would disable the probability down to 0. So when you go into your spawn points, right now you have you keep random AI on. You get your probability for that down to 0. Castleton you get down to 0. This one you would put at 50, about 50%. Riverline down to 0, Selkirk down to 0, and then you set up. Which one did I say? I'm getting my names confused. So it's in here. So like I said, I mean, we got 3 different personalities and 3 different ways of doing things. So we're all going to have our way of wanting to do things. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's all there is to it. I mean, but ultimately, this is Smiley's server. However he wants to do it. These are just suggestions on my part. Westbound spawns at Fonda. You get all your so you set up every single potential westbound spawn that you want. It doesn't really matter the symbols or the types or whatever. You know, majority would be CSX. Throw in a few other engines, whatever, and then have AI on all the time. St. Johnsville. I don't know about train numbers. I'll get to that in a white paper, but it's not important. The point is, you want to have one mixed freight available at St. Johnsville siding, one mixed freight available at Little Falls siding, and that's it. You already have a mixed freight available at coming into Syracuse, and I can almost guarantee that they would be there. So now you have 2 from the east, which represent 2 locations. They don't represent Little Falls and St. Johnsville, but they can still be called that. What they represent is eastbound traffic coming in from Chicago. Sorry, not from Chicago. My bad. Anything that's coming in, it can be if it's an interchange. Especially if you're simulating it's coming off of NS or something. Obviously, I mean, you can have it reroute, but when you have trains going west and east all the time, it's kind of weird to have it that way. I would... the reason why I'm talking about having supplies going this way west, to west, and obviously we can only have one coming east from Buffalo. Let me just take a look at that for a minute and see what that is, because I know it's there. It used to work for mine. It's probably set up for a supply train, if I recall too. So if I go into where is it? I'm not going to do the white paper tonight. Not at all. I don't have time. So I'm going to spawn this train. I assume this is going to be a supply train. Kansas City Southern. Well, that's a nice one. But it could be anything. It's got Kansas City Southern? Where the hell is it? Okay. Oh, here it is. Ooh, that's got a lot of engines.
So, BRSE, that's interesting. What's BR? And see, they're all tagged, which is which is what I would expect. So they're all tagged with different symbols and all that other crap, which is perfect. What you don't want is to have supply trains on your other ones. So you have this train here. He can come in now, and he's one of your supplies. So he'll come up to the signal. They'll never spawn as long as if you have AI on and you have random AI on. I wouldn't put it on yet. I would wait. I would clear out all the traffic first. But then, and I think you have to restart the server too, or get in and get out. I forget how that works. But he edging up to the signal? Yeah. So that's good. Now, of course, I'm gonna delete him anyways. So you only want to spawn, and I think it'll do BRSE every time. But let me see here. Let me just try. Let me test that theory. Yeah, good. So yeah, that's I think he used this to test his supply trains as well. He may have had another one. Okay, I can delete that. So the key is have one supply train. You don't have to have more than one train in each one. So you have BRSE. I don't know what BR stands for. Barstow? Nah, I don't know what the hell it is. Doesn't matter. So it's going to BR. It could be Norfolk Southern, it could be whatever railroad you want, but let's assume it's something other than CSX and it's just got trackage rights that's coming in. So what Syracuse becomes a not only a place where all the locals get switched out of to do all that, but it also becomes a place where you're breaking down trains that are coming from two different sources. Actually, multiple sources. You're not at the locals, but you have the interchanges. So you got locals, local switching, interchange switching. Then you have a lot of switching that can be done in the yard to keep Syracuse busy for those that are interested in switching. The whole idea behind what I'm getting at is to be able to have a 24/7 server that can operate as close to possible I don't know what the R is, but now they're calling it Selkirk. Yeah, it's not too important. Like, I'm not too worried. Like, as far as the train, like the name of the train and all that stuff, it's not a big deal, or even what kind of engines are on it, more or less. So when you look at a yard like this, and this is what I envision. The reason why I say such a small area is because you want to actually operate this area as much as possible with as few people or manpower as possible on a regular basis, and keep them coming back. And then once you have enough people, then you can get a little bit crazier. I recommended starting the like I said, I recommended starting the AI at Fonda, only because it gives you the option of having a spawn both at St. Johnsville and Little Falls. That will give you the ability to have two supplies from the west, one from the east. So now you're, in essence, you're and there's a lot of ways you can look at it. Location, especially in Australia, you were saying, as far as not familiar with the locations, I'm not. At this point, it's kind of what we'd call proto-lands, because the locations really aren't that important so much. At least, but the concept is. So what happens in a yard like this is you set your industries, but you only set up the industries. Any industries that are set up for anywhere else, you basically have to make a copy of your industry file, make a backup of it, so that it's there if you ever want to go back to it, or at least have the supply train filtered to only deal with supplying either these industries or dealing with the outflows. So if you have a supply coming in from here, you want it to supply the industries. So you want it to have interchanges with Messina. You have to create an industry in Messina to allow that to be a live interchange. Likewise, you'll have other ones that I mentioned before. They can be live interchanges as well. And then you have industries set up so that it supplies to those other locations, those start locations. So you got your Selkirk, but you're directing traffic going someplace else from Selkirk. So your Selkirks could be coming all from Fonda. Anything that else is coming else can be coming from Fonda. And you can put passenger trains in there as well. I wouldn't put a high priority on them. They'll stop at your they'll bunch up behind other freights, slow freights, but at least they'll stop at these passenger stations, make it interesting. But they won't stop at Syracuse, and that's just the way it is. At least they won't if AI is randomly on. It's going to bypass a station. If somebody wants to dispatch it, that's up to them. But the whole idea is to keep the right hand running just like it is right now. But then you set up at Fonda. I think it's at Fonda, if I recall. Is Fonda or St. Johnsville? One of the places you have it run off the track. And the reason why you have it run off the track is, holy crap, there's Tim. The reason why you have it run off the track is it's going to delete itself. I gotta leave in 5 minutes, Tim. But that's cool. So you got another guy on here. Have them run off the track at Fonda. That eliminates them from coming up to a signal saying, I need a signal, I need a signal, I need a signal, like some of the other trains do. Then the other part of the railroad, you don't worry about running AIs. You keep them manual spawns. If people want to run them, that's fine. Because anything that you run out of here, you're going to have to dispatch. So if you want to run something out of here, you keep the trains there, but you keep them as manual spawns. That means they're not going to get as much traffic here. If they want to run, if they want to deal with a hump, they can deal with the hump. But all this, I'm not even interested in. All I'm interested in is this area right here. Because this, to me, is something that with enough people, they can keep on coming back and work this area and put the focus on this area. Because with enough manpower, you're talking switching, I think there's 10 industries, some interchanges. A few of us, even if the interchanges, let's just say the industries, you can have the industries locally, you can have them set up for not 24 but 48. You can have them set up, I believe, for turnaround times as much as 7 days. I would strive to get it maybe 24 or 48, but you can easily put it to, say, 36 hours or possibly 72, so you can have the odd one that you like that's really busy, have that go 24 hours, and then some of the other industries maybe only less busier 148, and then some of your rare industries have them 72. And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to have your busy industries switched daily by somebody, so that hopefully somebody who will come on a daily basis will be able to at least run one supply train that has enough. Whether it'd be nice to run a supply train from each location and have everything running, but you're only dealing with a handful of trains that basically have to be run to keep the operation fluid. When you're talking a hump, you're dealing with a hell of a lot more to keep everything fluid into a system, and that's really where I'm getting down to. So you want everything manageable by the amount of people that you really have, and then don't worry about the AIs for the rest. I would take everything off probabilities. I would take the probabilities down for everything off of here. Let them stay as manual spawns. If somebody wants to run a particular train, they just hit the spawn button, and if this is what they get. If they don't like it, they can delete it, try again type thing. Or they can just spawn a train. You can always have the ability for them to just spawn a train. And if they want to run, whatever, if they want a supply train or whatever the heck the case may be, or that's fine. And you can always have other places if you want to manually spawn something into the hump for whatever reason. If you want to use the hump on occasion because you miss it or whatever, you just don't want to have this server up and not use this. Say you want to use this. Personally, I've always been fine with not needing to use an entire route. I've used every little project that I've done. When I was running Sanford sub project, I only used Sanford sub. I didn't use the rest. The Mojave sub project that I did, I only used Mojave. I didn't even use Bakersfield. Bakersfield was empty, never used it. Just use the smaller area. What happened though was, for me personally, I got bored with it because it was just me or a couple, maybe somebody else or a couple other people, but we had so many trains that we still had to deal with. This is something where it's a lot more potential for automation, so you don't have to worry about running everything, which is pretty cool, I think. And Scott's emailing us or something. I can't take a look at it tonight. I'll look at it tomorrow at lunch. I might do the white paper tomorrow at lunch, but then again, I might go for a walk tomorrow too. And plus, I have my son, so I'll get back to this on Sunday. So yeah, I'll check the emails. I think Scott sent us some emails or whatever, and then I'm gonna do a white paper. Probably, if I don't do it tomorrow, then my next chance will not be till Sunday. And yeah, that'll work out pretty good, I think. So, and like I said, if this isn't for you, Smiley, if it's something that, you know, this is your server. If it's not for you, I mean, number one, you know, this is, you guys can talk, you know, do talk and say, okay, maybe this isn't what you want, blah blah blah. This is what's got me passionate about getting into Run8 again. Can I do it on my own? Yeah, I can. And can I host on my own now? Apparently I can, but the problem with me is I can't run on weekends. When I have my son around, I'm going to end up putting the server on for a lot of time, and then I'm going to have to shut it down. I'm going to have to turn it on. It's not always going to be available to people when they want. Mind you, I will keep the server up weekdays. If I'm at work, the server's on. When I'm on vacation, the server's going to be on, at least as much as I can. So, but I like the concept of having something available 24/7 as opposed to me running 3 hours a session. That's the big thing, because then others can get involved at least, or at least try. Meanwhile, AI can continue to run their train, so that when you come on a server, like Tim got on the server, whatever, he sees trains, you know, running the course of the area that he could be operating. So that's the whole thing. So anyways, guys, that's it for me. I'm yapping too much. I gotta get to bed. So that be it for now. So as usual, if you have ideas, I didn't even get into the chats or whatever. There was nothing else there. But like I said, that wasn't my purpose to do a tour of the route. That's not what I'm looking at doing right now. I'm not looking to run an entire route or showcase. I've had these routes for ages. So take some videos. You might see. I'm sure you've seen me in somewhere on this route, somewhere. But I will post. This is RTS returning to Selkirk ? Because it's still in question until you know, until we agree on something. Once we've agreed on something, it's all set up, then cool. And until it's, and if it's not, then like I said, I might just go ahead and start building up an industry file for myself and a concept on my own, and maybe Scott will be doing the same thing. Scott's probably got a lot of time on his hands that he can do it too, or Smiley can, or whatever. So probably more time than me. This is just what I personally want to do. Again, it's not my server, but I can't run a 24/7 server anymore. I just don't have the computer, and quite frankly, I don't know if I even have the bandwidth to do it. So, well, yeah, I have the bandwidth, but I don't have the PC power, and I'm not getting another computer. So, okay, guys, man, my voice is gone. Anyways, guys, nice chatting with you. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.